Hi everyone, Matt here from CWH Tech Tips. Today we'll be going over a new project that we're starting. It's been about 3 years since we did our mineral oil PC build. You can get a link to that up here or in the description below. So we found this desk sitting around we've had for a while, and we decided we're going to build a PC inside of this desk and make it look all flashy and nice. So let's get started. Here's our desk. We bought this at Costco. It's been sitting around for about 3 years or so we decided to make use of it on this project. It's got a nice glass top that we can start working with in order to see the PC that we're building, but there's a few problems. One of them is it's solid wood here, so we have to kind of make an indent and cut into it so you can see it through the glass. There is a cool feature though, around back here. There's a little divot. There's plugs and USB ports in here that we can use to plug in our monitors. As for the size, it is 24 inches by 4 feet. So the drawers are a little smaller. We'll go over that in a bit, but hopefully we can fit everything on here and have a nice, cool looking PC desk. Here are the drawers we're gonna be working with. See, the whole PC is gonna be in here. While the desktop itself is pretty big, these drawers are actually kind of shallow and they're not very high. So we're gonna need to do some work in order to fit in everything so there's nice airflow. So we're gonna cut into here to get our GPU sitting a bit lower. We're gonna have a nice little ITX motherboard here and a small low profile power supply back here. And we're gonna use radiant cooling in order to keep everything low profile, but still nice and cool for gaming. There's a couple cool features, like this thing will pop open, so if you want, you can kind of tinker in there. And then yeah, once we got all that set up, we'll be able to see right through the glass here to see the PC and how it's built. Here are the drawers we're going to be using. They're not the biggest, but they should still work for the project we have. They're about 18 inches wide, 12 3/4 of an inch deep, which should be enough to fit in the motherboard, GPU, and other accessories we're thinking of putting in here. Now the hard part is going to be the height, which is only 1 3/4 inches. It's a little bigger on here inside, but it's still going to be very tight for like a proper GPU. So we're planning to cut into the bottom of the drawer so we can drop the GPU through and then mount it from underneath. That should give us enough clearance to open and close the drawer and for airflow for the entire system. So this is the motherboard we'll be using, the MSI MPG B550i. It's nice and small form factor, and it's ready for our AMD processor. So this is the RAM we're going to be using, the G.Skill Trident Z RGB. So we'll be plugging this into our motherboard. We'll have some nice LEDs on our RAM as well as everything else. So this is the CPU we're going to be using, the Ryzen 5800. So here is the GPU we're using. 3070 from EVGA, the FTW3 Ultra. We've picked this one out because it'll give us the best performance and still fit nicely in our drawers. So this is the power supply we're going to be using, the SF750 from Corsair. It's a nice small form factor, so it'll fit nicely in our desk. And we have some of our cables here as well. Modular cables, so we don't need to use all of the cables. So it'll fit a lot better. All right, this is the SSD we're gonna be using, the FireCuda 520. It's an M.2 drive, so it won't take up a lot of space. Nice small form factor, and it'll fit directly onto our motherboard. We're going to be installing this power button on the side of the desk, so you can easily turn on and off the computer. It's got your audio for your headphones and your mic, and it's got 2 USB ports as well. You can just be able to turn on your computer like that. Yeah, so we'll be using a right angle power cable. This is to make sure everything will fit properly in the drawer. So it's got a right angle to plug into the power supply. This is the cooler we're going to be using for our CPU. It's a liquid cooler with a radiator. So we'll just be able to have this installed and radiate all the heat out from the CPU. And it'll be small form factor, so it'll be able to fit in the drawer. Additionally, we have the radiator fans as well. So these will be attached onto the radiator to cool things down. We're going to be installing some mesh filters to make sure there's not too much dust going through for all the fans and stuff that's in. Basic mesh filters with a magnetic strip on the back. And this is the cable riser we're going to be using. We need this so the graphics card isn't installed normally on a motherboard. It would be pointing up, but trying to fit it into this desk, we'll need to have it on like flat on the drawer. So, and yeah, we'll just plug the graphics card into the PCI through this cable here. So we're gonna be installing some LED strips as well. We'll have this strip lining across the inside here, and possibly some around as well, the back end of the desk. So here's the drawer we're going to be installing into. This is all the hardware that's going to be into it. It's going to be put into the drawer. Here's a little overview of what it's going to look like. We've got our radiator here. Our power supply is going to be installed right here. The motherboard will be back behind the power supply, and the graphics card is going to be over here on this side. So we're going to have to cut out some parts of the back here for the I/O and for the inputs for the graphics card. We had to move around from our initial ideas. We used to have the fans going downwards, but we noticed that between this plug for power and also the plug going to the motherboard, it just makes more sense to install it this way, or else the cords would be getting in the way of everything. We'll get this all cut out and ready to install. Hey Jeff, thanks for stopping by.
Hey Matt.
Hey, so we had this idea to build a PC into this desk. So we have this glass top. We were hoping to cut a square into here so we can see the PC as is installed. And it'll be in the drawer here. However, it's not very tall. So we were thinking we need to cut part of this out in order to install the GPU and kind of mount it underneath. So there's a bit more room for it.
Okay, cool. Just give me some time. Let me take some measurement.
Perfect.
Let you know when it's done.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay.
So for the motherboard, we had drilled small holes into the bottom of the cabinet, and then we put our motherboard standoffs in those, and then secured the motherboard to those standoffs. So there's a bit of space underneath the motherboard, and it's nice and secure. Then I installed the M.2 drive that we're going to be using, nice and low profile so it doesn't take a lot of room in the drawer. This motherboard features a little heatsink with a fan for the M.2 for better cooling. Now to just click in this RAM. Next is our radiator, which is used to cool the CPU. We had to cut out a big rectangle from the bottom of the drawer in order to make it fit well and have clearance for the hoses for the drawer when it closes into the desk, because there's not a lot of clearance on the desk. As for the other pieces of hardware, like the graphics card and the power supply, we had screwed in little holes and installed little brackets in order to keep everything secure and safe if the drawer is being moved around. To make sure everything was secure for all the hardware installed in the drawer, we drilled little holes and added these little pegs in order to make sure nothing slides around and everything is secure and in place. Our ultimate goal was to make sure the drawer was removable, so we could take it in and out if there's any sort of issues or if you wanted to swap any sort of hardware out. So that was a main factor, and there were a few issues that we had to work around. in order to make that work. Well, we finished building our computer, so now we're gonna put this thing into our desk and fire it up. All right, let's turn this on. Power button over here, and boom, there we have it. Seen some nice LEDs glowing in there. Everything's powering up. Got a keyboard, got our monitor, and yeah, it's looking good.